So, Jessie, thank you so much for coming and being willing to discuss your supervision experiences with me. Tell me a little bit about where you are in your professional career.
I am in the middle of my 5th year, and I have finished all my classes at the PsyD program at Alliant, and I've done all my internships. So that consisted of 2 practicums and then 2 KPIC internships. So
Wonderful.
I've had a total of 4 supervisors.
Great, so you're going to be full of information today.
Yes, hopefully.
I love that. Well, as I explained, I am trying to get a sense for the answers to questions that people ask that don't seem to appear in any of the written literature on supervision.
Okay.
And it's a shame because I think more than anything, people want to know, what works in supervision, what doesn't work in supervision. Mm-hmm. There are so many things written about how do you do supervision, and what are the models of supervision, and what are the theories of supervision, and what are supervisors using. Mm-hmm. But rarely have I seen anything that really describes people's experiences. Mm-hmm. And it's sort of the good, bad, and the ugly, probably, that is of most interest to other people out there, either preparing to supervise other people or still processing their own supervision experiences. So maybe the first question I'd have, and you can really compare and contrast if you want, mm-hmm. the experiences you've had since you've had several supervisors, to really give some thought to what factors maybe were most useful or most beneficial to you. Mm-hmm. If you think about the things in supervision that worked the best, or the parts of your supervision experiences that were really satisfying, mm-hmm. Or useful.
Okay.
Maybe there are themes. Maybe there is something that each time it happened really made it work. So tell us about that.
Okay, so I think the best things in supervision I got was someone who could kind of be really supportive of me, like go to bat for me, validate me. A lot of the placements I've been at have been, it's not just a bunch of clinicians, it's nurses and MFTs and like doctors, or in a school setting there's teachers, principals. So having my supervisor just really be like, yeah, we're on a team together, really like a sense of solidarity mm-hmm. in that.
I can see how that would be comforting.
Yeah, totally.
Especially in a setting where, as you said, it's, mixed and integrated and sometimes not well integrated.
Yeah.
Where you're with people that are not of your kind, so to mm-hmm. speak. And you may not know about all of the different things that folks do in any one setting. I know certainly when I went into a med-surg hospital for one of my practica, I just remember thinking, like, well, I thought I knew what a nurse did, and I thought I knew what a psychiatric nurse did, and I thought this, and I had no idea. And you're right, having somebody to kind of pave the way mm-hmm. and help you feel like you're not completely alone mm-hmm. Can be really important.
And supervisors that, like, advocated, kind of almost, I felt like as an intern a lot of the time that I needed to be protected from a lot of things, mm-hmm. like, and so a supervisor that could really be like, no, they need to take a lunch break, or no, this is like, I mean, really, it sounds silly.
Not allowed to work 12 hours
a
day.
Yeah, I mean, it was, or just like, that's not, kind of clarifying our role mm-hmm. was a big thing that good supervisors did, and then not having any role clarification was something that, not as strong supervisors did. Mm-hmm. So then in those cases, it was like, well, what are we doing? Are we supposed to do that? Are we allowed to do that?
Right.
So...
So it's interesting. I mean, one of the things that we've looked at in just the whole nature of supervision are, what we'd say are, supervisee effects or components, supervisor effects, components, characteristics. And you're pointing out something that is, purely about how a supervisor approaches the process of supervision. Mm-hmm. A supervisor who sees their role as to be the captain of the ship and to help mm-hmm. you understand what your role is, and to ensure that other people understand what your role is, and to protect your rights and responsibilities. Mm-hmm. So that's one piece of the pie. If you were to look at things that you brought to supervision that made it easier or better, or you know, are there things that you learned about yourself in the process?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, a lot of my supervisors had groups of us interns.
Yes.
So it was interesting to sort of compare like my experience with a supervisor that I really liked or didn't like with a colleagues. So a lot of times I felt like I just took it a lot more seriously, like for better or worse. You know, I always was prepared. I was like, you know, I had supervisors kind of like make fun of me, like, oh, you're here at like 10 o'clock, like, what if we start at 10:01, you know? Yeah. And part of my process was really like, I tend to be a little bit more like really serious professional. And so having supervisors that were like, you know what, like, cut the crap, like, what's really going on with this client? Like, do you want to go for a walk and get a coffee during our supervisor hour? Like, that was cool to have kind of like that level of
so you
comfort.
some of that role modeling, that everything doesn't have to be so rigid,
right? But on the flip side, I think I had colleagues that like weren't very prepared at all, and so they would, you know, the supervisor had to sort of like be more rigid with those colleagues. Yeah. So it was just, that was one. Another one was, I think that in supervision, like, I really want to like get super intellectual and like really get into the cases. And you know, even in group supervision, that was like a whole nother ballgame.
It's a different phenomenon, yeah.
Yeah. But sometimes, like, especially towards the end of the year, I kind of just needed like a complaining session, or just like, you know,
well, dealing with your human responses.
Right,
I mean, they
exactly.
talk about transference and countertransference, but rarely, at least in the literature, rarely do supervisors encourage you simply to look at your human response, which is really something different than countertransference. And
just
people
like,
just
man.
don't talk about that. You know, what's the impact of being with a client who's dying? And okay, maybe you've never had any death experiences, and so this is not really countertransference, and
it's just like, whoa, this is really heavy.
This is heavy. This is my sadness. This is how I'm having to deal with myself during seeing this person. And yeah, well, and you're right. And sometimes there is just an opportunity to vent and to offload all that you've maybe inadvertently even taken on from clients.
Oh yeah, I mean, weeks of just seeing, you know, 15 addicts in a group for, it's like, oh man. I mean, it was cool to have supervisors that you could do that with too. It wasn't just like, this is a teaching hour, this is support.
And it sounds again like for you, maybe even the combination of the two, where somebody could meet you where you desired, and could be as intellectual and could be as academic or didactic as you wanted, but also could help you sort of relax and relinquish some of that control.
And validate.
Yeah. Very good. Well, when you think about supervision experiences that maybe did not go so well, or where you found yourself wondering, you know, how long is this going to last, and when can I get out of here, and when can I have a real supervisor, or when can I have a different supervisor, or when can I do this differently? When you look at those kinds of situations, and maybe you didn't have them if you're really, really lucky, but when supervision was not optimal, what did you notice about it that just did not meet your needs or didn't meet your expectations?
I had one supervisor who, you know, he wasn't bad. It was kind of just like, he was checking the boxes. Like, there was nothing, over the whole year, there wasn't even any sense of a personal relationship at all. Like, there was no, I mean, I wonder if he even would have been able to know my name, because there were like 6 of us.
Wow.
Yeah, so that kind of felt like, you know.
Not very invested in the process.
And then it was interesting because my response to that was to try to impress him. You know, be like, okay.
I'll make myself memorable.
I'm going to be the best, or I'm going to be, I am important. Like, I'm trying to like come in with all these interesting things that had happened.
Sure.
I mean,
that didn't make an impact because, of course, it wasn't about you.
No, I mean, he was just totally like, yep, sounds good, okay. Like, it was just, you know, and there was one incident at that practicum where a nurse, like, went off on me. And, I mean, talk about, like, needing to be protected. And he just totally didn't. I mean, he kind of took, like, well, you know, that nurse is just weird, and, you know, but maybe you did something wrong. Maybe you should. It was just like, oh, that's an icky feeling. Like, wrong thing to say, you know?
Yeah.
I don't think he was bad. I would probably give him like a C+.
Yeah.
You know?
But again, part of that supervision process is making sure that you have a plan together and you contract for services together. And some part of that is designing the relationship. How close, how distant, how rigid or formal, how relaxed.
Do you know my name?
Yeah. Yeah. And if I close the file, do you know who I am?
I know.
What I do here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so sometimes, when you have a supervision that sort of goes off to the left instead of to the right, as a long-term supervisor, my first question is, okay, so how much of that was reviewed and how much was contracted for and how much was in the supervision agreement? And exactly. So
well, my comments at the end of the year, I mean, he's always written me good letters and
Sure.
he's always done those things on paper. My comment at the end of the year on like the 5-line, write a paragraph, attach another page if you need it.
Right.
The comment was top notch ! That was it.
Wow.
And I was like, that's cool. But like, how much of that was like you being lazy and not wanting to really give me feedback? I mean, I got no feedback.
Yeah. Which again, I think it's great that you got such a high evaluation. But again, part of our evaluative process is to really be honest so that you can grow as a professional.
Right.
And if you're top notch on every category, then say top notch in every category and list them.
Yeah, I'm not top notch. And I was, you know what I mean? Like it was kind of like, that's cool, but I want someone
I really appreciate your candor though, because there'd be so many people who would just take the pat on the back and say, woohoo! And maybe not then seek more the next go round.
Yeah. Definitely.
So that's very cool.
Yeah.
The last thing I wanted to ask you about is that, again, what I noticed in the literature is very rarely do people talk about what kind of challenges they experienced in supervision. And it's not, what was good, what was bad, what worked, what didn't work, but what were the arenas or the episodes or experiences where you walked away thinking, ugh, wow, okay, I don't know how to deal with that.
I had one supervisor who had a ranking system for us interns, but he didn't let us know that until the mid-year when we received our rank.
Oh my.
But, and he acted like it was this really, like, fun team building thing.
How do you build a team when one is always climbing above another?
I don't know. It was really strange. But, so he, like, gave me my mid-year report, and then he was like, and by the way, I picked you as head intern out of the 4 because you had the highest scores and everything. And I was like, don't tell anyone else that. Like, kind of like joking, and he's like, oh no, this is a tradition. We do that. And I'm going, I think this is the first time that we had heard of that. And like, thank you for the compliment. But then I could already see, like, now there's going to be this big issue between me and everyone else. And there was.
And how did you, as an intern group, which, I mean, again, when you're in a setting with other interns, the intern
you gotta
group
be tight.
becomes like a family.
Yeah, we had all the same office.
Yeah.
Always decompressing together.
How did a lot of you work towards resolution of what the supervisor had put into play?
It never really got resolved, unfortunately. I mean, I think I was like of two minds about it. Kind of one where I was saying, who cares? Like, if you really think you're doing a good job, which you all are, who cares? Like, I didn't ask for this. And then the other mind was like, God, the supervisor should apologize and or just be like, maybe we need to revise this. But there wasn't really anything done about it. He was just like, you know what? Like,
wow.
So.
Wow, that's a very difficult situation.
Yeah, it was weird. Yeah.
Because it really is not something that you could control or resolve on your own. I mean, I suppose that there must have been some time spent by the lot of you trying to just even laugh it off or make light of it, but
no, it really hurt people's egos.
Yeah,
it was really like, and it was 4 women, so then there's that whole thing, and
wow.
Yeah, and then it was announced to the staff, so then it was so it was just like
it became a kind
I had nothing to say about it. I was just like, what can I, poor
my goodness.
like, thank you.
Yes. Glad that you were at the top of the heap, but at the same time.
But I'm still, now everyone under me is like, it was just a weird judgment call. Like it was weird that he didn't notice that really caused a rupture in the team.
Nor did he, it sounds like, nor did he ever take the time at the beginning of the internship to say, now, y'all are in a competition.
Yeah, FYI.
And this is what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
And in the middle of the year, somebody's going to win, somebody's going to play second, somebody third, and somebody fourth. And we're going to announce it to everyone. At least then you all would be informed consumers, right?
Yeah.
And you could make decisions or have input. But again, kind of coming back to what do we contract for in supervision, I mean, that sounds like a horrific situation where none of that was communicated. And
it was so surprising.
Oh. Ugh.
Yeah.
Well, if you could think of, let's change it up so we end on a really pleasant note. If you could think of one moment in supervision where you just were so pleased, either with yourself, your growth, your performance, or the connection with the supervisor, or even the process of the supervision, what comes to mind?
Definitely my 2 years ago, my supervisor, I had a good feeling about him from the start. Like, he called me on the match day and was just like, I want you to work for me. You were awesome. Nice. And I was like, cool. Great. And then from the start, it was just like a really good rapport. Same sense of humor, that helps. But I think what was really neat was he just like got me, and he knew if I was like pretending to know something, you know what I mean? Like, and it wasn't like he's like, oh yeah, right, Jessie, you know.
Yeah.
All the time. I mean, there's not one moment. It just was like, he was so cool. Try not to swear, I'm sorry.
No, that's
and I still hang, like, I know him, we hang out, like, we go to dinner sometimes with, like, other colleagues. I mean, it's just, he's a good guy.
Yeah.
And that, to me, it was like, that relationship was so important. You know, it's like, this is someone, they're not just my supervisor and then the year's over. It's like someone that I would want to always keep in contact with.
It sounds like he became a mentor.
Totally a mentor.
You know, which is, I would say that as a supervisor, I would always want to aspire to be a mentor, but that doesn't necessarily happen. And it sounds like he has sort of moved into that role as a lifetime professional mentor and somebody that you can, you know, hold in that regard. That if you came across a dicey situation, he might be the first person that you consult with.
Yes.
He gets you, and he gets where you're coming from.
Yeah, and he has sort of the similar take on a lot of things. So.
And it sounds also like you came to trust him. And I know that that's very, very difficult to find, especially when somebody has evaluative power over you.
Oh, yeah.
Sort of, you know, you may find yourself always just performing rather than just being and learning. And so it sounds like in that relationship you were able to make that transition into a place of trusting that he was going to teach you what you needed to know, but also be with you through that process of transformation.
Yeah, he was the same one that kind of could, like, you know, okay, like, nice, that's a great psych report that you typed up, but, like, what's really going on? You know, like,
very good, very good.
Yeah, a real person.
Very nice. Yeah. Well, is the alphabet soup after your name coming soon?
Probably by December, hopefully, pending on data collection. But yeah,
wonderful.
Yeah, it's going really well, and I'm so glad that I chose this career path, because it just seems like, it's been tough, but like the mountain, it's like I'm kind of going over it now.
Yes, you're on the decline now.
Yeah,
wonderful.
I'm
now
making money. I'm like
short
ready.
timer.
Yeah, exactly. So
very good. Well, best of luck with finishing the dissertation and getting that degree and getting on into this world of work and potentially yourself sometimes supervising someone else.
I would love to be a supervisor.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.